have your attention, please? It is 6 o'clock and time to start our regular monthly council meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order, and as we do here, we'll have an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. I would like to ask Pastor Bond if he would mind leading our invocation, and I would like to ask Chief Judd, would you mind in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, ask everyone to stand, please. Ms. Walker.
Honorable Mayor Fowler.
Here.
Honorable Councilman Bilbrey.
Here.
Honorable Councilman Graves.
Here.
Honorable Councilwoman Hawkins.
Here.
Honorable Vice Mayor Hill.
Here.
All right, the next item is to consider approval of the agenda, and if I understand correctly, we will need to have an emergency item added to our agenda with our auditing group. So I think everyone has a copy of that and has been notified. So Mr. Morrison, would you like that to be item number 6?
Please, yes, ma'am.
Right. Then I will consider approval of the agenda as presented with the addition of item number 6.
Make the motion to approve.
Mr. Bilbrey. Ms. Hawkins. And Ms. Walker.
Mayor Fowler.
Yes.
Councilman Bilbrey.
Yes.
Councilman Graves.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hawkins.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill.
Yes.
I'll ask you now to consider approval of the minutes of the last council meeting held on June the 11th. We have all had those provided to us previously. If you haven't had a chance to review those, I'd like to ask you to do that now, and if there are any corrections that need to be made, that we can do that at this time. To be made. Any changes or additions or deletions that need to be made? Not hearing any, I'll consider a motion and a second for approval of the minutes.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Hawkins, I'm going to go ahead and let you make the motion if that's okay. All right. All right. And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bilbrey. And now Ms. Walker.
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Graves,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill.
Yes.
Thank you. On to new business. Item number 3 is to consider approval to suspend the reading of ordinance 712-24. And as is custom here with our council, usually these ordinances are quite lengthy. We are going to be discussing that in our next item, so we usually dispense with the reading at the first of the meeting. So I will make the motion that we suspend the reading of ordinance 712-24. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Walker?
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Graves,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins, Vice Mayor Hill.
Yes.
And as promised, approval on first reading of ordinance 712-24 is to change the zoning classification of approximately 3.03 acres at 2901 Highway 111 from R2 and I1 to CA, which is general commercial. This is just approval on first reading, so it will have to be read a second time as well as have a public hearing at our next meeting. I don't know if any of you have seen the signs out, if you have gone by and looked at the property, but did we have a map to put up? Mr. Morrison? Okay. If I understand correctly, the main driving force behind this is we have several different zoning issues in this area where we're talking about, and this is to sort of consolidate those and make them all a little bit more uniform. Is that correct?
That's correct. The property to the south already zoned CA general commercial. There is a small section of the property to the south that is zoned I1, which is light industrial, and there's about a third of the property at the back that is zoned R2 medium density residential. So there's 3 zones existing at this property. So this is really just a cleanup issue to get it all zoned to CA general commercial, and was recommended by the Planning Commission on May the 23rd. It has been approved for Milo and Lucy's Triple R Dog Ranch LLC to be on the property.
Do we have anyone here from Milo and Lucy's who would like to speak to this? Okay. Any discussion amongst the council?
Keith, any questions, excuse me, any citizen commentary submitted to you or any objections to the rezoning? It seems kind of logical, but anyone voice opinion one way or the other?
Nobody in the general public came. I know the Planning Commission asked about the dogs to assure that the owner would try to address the issue if the dogs were barking, and they indicated they would, that they didn't want to be a noisy neighbor. They want to be good neighbors and provide a good business at this location. It is adjoining the industrial park. There is a large drop-off and drainage sink area in behind it that would prevent them from building too far back. And they also asked for a variance to shift this up closer to 111 so that it wouldn't be so far back. You do have a member of the Planning Commission here with Mr. Dan Taylor. who might want to speak to it. But the Planning Commission did address those concerns and make sure they were aware of them, and we're going to take those under consideration as they build the property.
Not to put you on the spot or anything there, Mr. Taylor, but would you like to speak to that first?
Asking, and they said that they'll keep the dogs in at night. What they said. Of course, there's other issues. If people complain, then respond. The city responds and try to address an issue.
There was 2 or 3 issues brought up. I brought up the noise. Assured me, and it's in the minutes, that dogs be kept inside. They would deal with the waste in this place. That's a problem.
I can't hear a word you're saying.
I'm sorry. I did bring up 2 or 3 issues. The barking dogs was a big issue. They assured me, and it's in the minutes, and she promised there'd be no dogs outside at night to bark, and we'll enforce that one. And they would deal with the waste from the dogs, that would be dealt with, and screening might have to be some fences, and she was open to that too.
Thank you, Mr. Lane.
Is the rezoning necessary for them to build this, or can they build it on what they've already got?
They can build it on what they've already got. This is just a cleanup issue to make the parcel one zone so that it's not 3 piecemealed zones is what it is. And the only section I would think they couldn't build in is the R2, and they're not going to build back there anyway. It's going to be way up in front of it.
I guess I would have been a lot more comfortable if somebody who's associated with this themselves would be here to tell us exactly how they're going to keep dogs from barking. Because I've had 1 or 2 complaints from people already about building this there, and like I said in the work session last night, there's a reason that Putnam County put their dogs out at Hyder Burks to get it out of the proximity of apartments and private housing, and I know that they can build it there, but I think unless they have some foolproof plan that I don't know of, the dogs are going to bark, and they're going to be disturbing.
I haven't seen the minutes, Mr. Taylor or Miss Ruby, but was anybody here from Milo and Lucy's at the Planning Commission meeting to describe what their plans were, what they were going to be doing? Yes, they were here. Okay, thank you.
Keith, question for you. If so, assume approval and the barking becomes an issue. I think it's far enough where hopefully the waste isn't an issue, but that is another concern. But if the barking is an issue, what are the arrows in the quiver of the neighbors to find remediation on the dog barking? Is it a noise ordinance complaint, or what can other adjoining neighbors do?
I intended to look that up because I knew you were going to ask that, and I
Thank
got
you.
tied up with
I
the
did send
audit
you an
and
email
some
before
other
that one.
things.
Teed it up for you.
Yeah, I didn't quite make it dealing with the audit and broke down trash truck today. We do have a noise ordinance, so we would apply it just like we would at any residential home where somebody's not keeping their dogs in and taking them, like they should, and they're excessively barking. We will address that just like we did with any other business or any residential home. We will, of course, go give them a warning, and if it continues, then we'll cite them to court, and the judge will take it from there.
Thank you.
I was very concerned about this. I've had this same problem in another city. And as long as the dogs are kept inside, there's no issue. You can't hear them barking. And a little bit, and these are going to be some dog runs. They are going to be able to keep these dogs outside in the daytime. But I think we ought to try to do something attached to this to ensure that at night, no dogs are left outside. 2 o'clock in the morning, you can hear a dog bark for 5 miles, nearly, and it's a real problem. I was really concerned about it from a codes issue, and if the dogs are kept in, and this is, people's paying to put their dogs there. So it ain't, this is not, the other problem I had was where they were bringing them, it was a helping hands thing, or and people would dump them off, and they got overwhelmed with dogs. Should not be the case out here. They're paying to put them dogs out there. We do have an ordinance that says excessive barking is an offense against the city, and we can ticket them for that, and we will if they do that. If the dogs are kept inside at night, I don't believe you'll ever hear a complaint. I don't think you will.
Lady that was here that night, she agreed to everything that everybody asked her.
Who enforces the ordinance on if the dogs are excessively loud? Do you do that? I know that.
Any policeman in the city of Allgood can do it, or I can do it.
I know that we had some issues in Brookside with excessively loud automobiles, and I talked to the police about it, and they informed me that the ordinance was not adequate. They couldn't do anything. So I have a problem with, we can't keep them building if they've already got the right zoning to do it there, but I got a feeling we're going to have a lot of complaints and a lot of ifs, but the ifs you put there was, will they put them inside at night, or will that last 2 weeks or a month, and then everything gets very lax, and then you got dogs barking everywhere. Do we have any teeth? Are you going to go out there and enforce that?
I am. It would be nice to have an ordinance in place in front of this that would say no dogs can be kept out at night. And when I take it in front of the judge, it's there. We don't have an ordinance that says that currently that I know of.
Well,
We just got one excessive barking dogs. As I said, I question her good, but it's like you said, that's today. What's going to happen tomorrow, I don't know. It's a nasty business, this dog deal is. It really is. And I don't know, maybe we need to try to pass an ordinance, ensure that we've got some hard, fast rules to deal with this.
teeth into this, and that we need an ordinance to put some teeth into this, and that I agree with. If we have an ordinance, then you have something to work with.
One last question. This is a truly doggy daycare kind of situation. They're not going to be selling animals out of here. They're not going to be boarding or anything, correct? This isn't going to be where somebody can drop off an animal and they are stuck with animals. This is pure
It's not
daycare.
an animal shelter. Yeah, they're paying for the care and upkeep of the animal, during the day while they're away, or if they may keep them overnight for somebody that's going on vacation, but
Sure.
it's actually a paid service. They're also going to have a bakery and a store on site, as part of it, to do dog treats and things of that nature. These folks actually run the coffee shop that's downtown, the Milo and Lucy's coffee shop, and their animal, they love animals, they have dogs, and they want to provide this service for folks who go on vacation and different things, or want their dog to have somewhere to go during the day that somebody's letting them out and exercising them and things of that nature.
Thank you. I'll just offer it up. I think Mr. Graves is right. I think as long as the enforcement aspect is there, I think I appreciate them making attestations that this isn't going to be a problem, but they could easily turn around and sell it to somebody else, and it becomes a problem. So I think we need to make it less about the owner and more about what arrows we have in our quiver to enforce a nuisance. And so I'll make a motion, to approve this, and a secondary part of that motion is that we take a moment to review the noise ordinance for the entire city, and with the concept of either coming up with a better ordinance or strengthening the ordinance that's there, something along those lines. But I do think enforcement is the biggest key, like Mr. Graves said. That's a motion.
I would second that.
Ms. Walker?
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Graves,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill.
Yes.
All right. Item number 5, consider approval regarding a sidewalk bid. And I think we had 2 bidders, and we're not, I don't think that either one of them perhaps may be what we had in mind, but I'll let the council speak to
2 bidders, Kane Industries.
whatever you wish.
To note, there are 2 bidders. Kane Industries has bid, I'll make this brief, a typical sidewalk at $10.50 a square foot. They have established an equipment fee for each job of $14,000. Rogers Group has bid a typical square foot of sidewalk at $13 a square foot. Does not include the 57 base stone, and they want a minimum of 1,000 square feet to pour that, so they want a minimum job of $13,000 before they'll come out. We did have a blemish in the bid specs, which was my fault. I had 2 contradicting times in there. I had bids due at 10 and due at 1 with bid opening at 10. So that created some issues. So it is my recommendation that we reject all bids and just rebid this.
Based on that, I would go ahead and make the motion that we reject all bids and have this item rebid. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Walker?
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Graves,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill.
Yes.
Now, if you will look, please, at item number 6, which we added to the agenda. It is a letter of intent from MG Group PC for providing services to us. Not to exceed 37,000, I believe I saw, or I've added up here, regarding our audit. This is what comes to us after our previous auditor declined to complete the audit or begin it or quit it in the middle, whatever. But we are now faced with re-engaging someone else. So I'll let you have a minute to look at that, and if you haven't had a chance, and Mr. Morrison, if you want to tell us more about it, you're welcome to.
Again. So Blankenship PCA has done our audit in the previous years. They were approved back in April or May to do this year's audit. I've been working for several months to complete the previous year's audit and to get the contract for this current year that we've just closed. That was due June the 30th. I've reached out, so to speak, and notified them that we've had an issue because we've kind of been dropped on our can, so to speak. And so Blankenship notified me this morning that they would no longer be doing our audit, and so I've reached out to MG Group today, who has agreed to do it. They have been recommended by MTAS. We had a couple that recommended. MG Group agreed to do it, the basic audit not to exceed $35,000, and what's called a crosswalk not to exceed $2,000. Crosswalk is required now by the comptroller. They recently released notes that the crosswalk has been changed again, so that's continually evolving. Typically, we're spending $27,000 to the low $30,000 range on an audit anyway. It did note in here that if we required a single audit, that it would be no more than $5,000. We will not require a single audit. To my knowledge, I've reviewed everything, and we're not going to need that. So it will not exceed $37,000 for the audit. We did budget $40,000, as that's typically where I try to budget, assuming that if anything goes wrong, there may be fees. So this is within budget, and we do need to get this passed. It is an emergency. As soon as this is voted on and approved, we will upload a contract to the comptroller's office, and we will be in good shape.
For Blankenship, have we spent any money on Blankenship up to this point?
Not for the fiscal year 24, which is what this is for. No, they haven't done anything. We were working on getting the contract to upload, which is when we got notified they weren't going to do it because it was late, and I've been after them for 2 weeks now. So.
I'll make a motion to approve of utilizing MG Group for this year's audit at the same rates that we budgeted, up to $40,000.
Okay, there's a motion to go ahead and approve MG Group to do the audit not to exceed the $40,000 by Vice Mayor Hill. I will second that and would ask Ms. Walker to call the roll.
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Graves,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Morrison, it says your report, please.
Mr. Phipps is out helping me with an issue we've incurred this afternoon, so I'll take his right quick. 4th of July fireworks were a success, thanks to all the crews that come out and helped, and department staff. Ladies in the office were face painting. Walt and his crew were out working and putting in electric. We had more food fire for what they did, so we appreciate all that help, and another great event. We had more food vendors and more people in the field than I think we've ever had, and so it was a good turnout, and we're proud for that. Department heads.
So over the past couple of weeks, I've been working with the State Fire Marshal's Office on a community risk reduction plan. This will help us identify potential hazards before they arise, and we can start working resources towards those areas. So far for the year, we've run over 280 calls. That's fires, motor vehicle accidents, to hazmat and medical calls.
As everyone know, it's hot outside. So, but we're still getting it done. For the month of June, we picked up 180 brush work orders, so brush piles. And we did 46 water leaks. That's service lines, main, stuff like that. And for the month of June, we did a total of 590 work orders. So.
I'd just like to address some things that came up in the work session last night. So I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce to you Sergeant Chris Ferguson. This is the shift that works for the PD today. Sergeant Ferguson has 18 total years of law enforcement. I'd also like to take this time, I'd be remiss if we didn't take this opportunity to brag on him slightly. But Sergeant Ferguson has 18 years of service in law enforcement. He's a graduate of the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Officers Academy, the Administrative School, the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Academy Levels 3 and 2, Tennessee Law Enforcement Executive Development Seminar. Sergeant Ferguson is the director and in charge of our field training officer program. He's a firearms instructor, taser instructor, defensive tactics instructor, and he's in charge of scheduling everything for this shift. Officer Julian has a total of 17 years in law enforcement. He's responsible for the Tennessee
incident-based reporting system. So the FBI, the Uniform Crime Stats that they report, that's how they get to the FBI when you read that report. He submits those. He's also a field training officer. He's a radar instructor and a traffic crash investigator. Officer Tyree has a total of 7 years with the Allgood Police Department. He's also an Army veteran. He's a field training officer. He's a trainer with our Tactical Patrol Officer program, and he's also responsible for teaching a lot of our tactical medical stuff, which is unfortunately very needed in today's environment. Detective Neff also has 7 years with the Allgood Police Department. She is a defensive tactics instructor, field training officer, public information officer. She's attended a basic Institute homicide investigator school. She's also recently graduated of the prestigious Southern Police Institute Homicide Investigator School. Officer Neff also is responsible for a very large responsibility at the police department, which is the evidence room. She has modernized the evidence room. It's an alive evidence room nowadays because it has stuff coming in and stuff going out through destruction orders through the court, and she's done a really good job with that. And if you compromise an evidence room, you compromise the integrity of law enforcement agency. Officer Staton couldn't make it tonight. She's also an Army veteran. She's our drone operator for the city. That's a super cool asset, and glad we have that. She's also a certified traffic crash investigator. And Officer Rubel only has a few months with the department, but he has a total of 4 years of law enforcement experience. He is concentrating on drug interdiction, and the few months that he has worked here, he's been able to make 5 drug cases and 2 DUI cases. So that was an easy fix to introduce everybody. The other thing I'd like to say is this is the high water mark for the Allgood Police Department. It's the most trained, most educated, most professional point in time of this organization, and it's at least in my 19-year history of working here. I think they deserve accolades, and they apply the Tennessee Code Annotated equally, broadly, full spectrum, and how it should be, without a laser focus on particular ordinances and state laws. That's all I have. The only other thing I would like to mention is the barking dog ordinance is separate from the TCA that deals with mufflers. So the city ordinance for barking dogs, he said, has a lot more teeth than that law for mufflers. That's the difference. They're 2 separate things. Thank you.
Mr. Lane.
Let me give you a little update about what's going on. And I want to say I work with the City of Allgood Police Department all the time. They're great. You'll do no better. This is a rundown of what's going on, what's being built, what's under construction, or what's about to start. The equipment share out in the industrial park, their grading is done. They've done a little bit of work out there on their lighting. That building's that's a 12,000 square foot building, very large facility. Then in that same industrial park, there's an office building, and it's got to go in front of the planning commission. There was a little issue with the water. That'll get cleaned up next. We have issued a permit for Baskin Robbins. You see what's going on with the Valvoline. They've got the roof on that. A hair salon's getting ready to be built, kind of across from the diner right there. That's getting ready to take place. IWC is in the design stage. They're going to add about 90,000 foot to their building. So that's going to be a great big deal. Burton Branch, mini storages and warehouse, you see what's going on. Old houses, it's being there is currently 4 remodels going on in the city. Old houses, it's being rehabbed. 1 addition, 2 new houses is about to be finished. And Danny Richardson's house just issued a CO on that one, so that one's finished. Any questions on that? And a lot of code issues going on, a lot of code issues.
And there always. So are there any other department heads or reports from anyone that we need?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for attending, and let's see, our next meeting will be August the 13th. We don't have any events between in 30 whole days. We can keep the garbage truck on the road and everything else would be in good shape. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Is that seconded by you, Mr. Bilbrey?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned.